Mr. Morr is a singer-songwriter, and today he's going to use that music to work with you on writing and how to express yourself in writing. So would you please welcome Mr. Morr.
Well, over the past few years, several teachers, and it was ultimately a magnet school principal, had come up to me after seeing me perform and explain my songs and then sing the songs in the concert, and suggest that I develop a program, an enrichment program for grammar schools and middle schools, where students could be taught to express themselves, express their emotions through writing. And really, that's how the program Self-Expression in Words and Music came to light. It was those teachers and the principal encouraging me to do it. And that's what I used to do on my piano. I had a piano in the basement. And the thing that's beautiful about piano, unlike guitar, is even a cat can sound good on a piano. A cat can go walking across the piano with his paws, and you can say, wow, boy, that cat's not bad. And that's kind of what I would do. But all the while I was listening to music, while I was into baseball, while I was growing up, in the background there was always music going on. And one of the things that I love most of all were singer-songwriters. Well, it's always fun to hold up the old-fashioned LP, the record albums, and see the students' reaction and see that most students don't even know what it is. It's just a large CD to them. Yet when I was their age, the lyrics, the words were always inside those jackets, and I found myself reading those, and ultimately I think that's why I became a writer, was reading lyrics at a young age and hearing it, hearing them in songs. Does anybody know what this is? Way in the back.
It's a record.
It's a record, right.
Thank God.
Not many hands went up though, right, teachers? You notice not many took. A lot of them are just looking at that. Oh, Mr. Morr, that's a poster of a horse. I always related to the singer-songwriters, especially at a young age, because I found it amazing that they were able to, by reading the lyrics in the LPs, I would learn that they were able to really tell you what they were feeling, and they did so. They kind of exposed themselves, but they did it through music. And to me, that was a great form of expression and art. It's a bunch of little teeny words in here. Does anybody know what these are? Story, I hear story, that's good, that's close. Yes, Caleb? Yes, the titles of the songs, but what else? The lyrics. And I want to read you what this big, strong cowboy who I used to look up to sang. Many a time I feel so lonesome. I'm sitting there saying, wait a minute. My big strong cowboy is telling everybody he's lonesome? That doesn't make any sense. He's a cowboy. Big strong cowboy, how could that be? Many a day I feel so doggone tired. So now I'm thinking my cowboy, my big strong cowboy is lonesome and tired, and he's telling me and the rest of the world? Look, we all have bad days. Regardless of what age we are, it's all relative. And what I try to stress to the students is bad days are normal, and writing about them and putting it down on paper and expressing how you're feeling on a bad day can ultimately not only make you feel better, but will help you create art in the process. But the bottom line is, that's what it's about. It's about writing and expressing yourself, and she did that. And it made things a lot easier for her. This program isn't just about songwriting. This program is about writing in general. It's about expressing yourself in any form, be it poetry, journal, diary, just free-form writing, just as long as you're writing and expressing what you're feeling and putting it down. And the gift was a diary. Does anybody have a diary or a journal? A journal? Not a, well, okay. Boys call it journals, girls call it diaries, for those of you who are wondering. So she took this with her, and while she was going through these horrible changes, or not horrible, good changes, but difficult changes of meeting new people, going to new schools, she was writing every night in her diary. The program is in a question-answer type format where I'm constantly asking questions so the students are involved. I mean, it is an enrichment program, so the students, they're out of class, they're coming to something and they want to be entertained. And involving them in the discussion really seems to keep the thing cooking along.
First question will be, does anybody know what a singer-songwriter is? Does anybody have a piano in their house? Does anybody have any idea what it is? What other writers are there? Just writers without the melodies. What are some of the things when there are storms? Let's think of the storm. What do you think? What are some of the words that come to mind?
One of the things that really amazes me is when I ask the question, what type of emotions do we experience?
So let me ask the question, can we list some emotions? What are some emotions that we feel as people?
And the hands go flying up, and you hear these young voices coming up with all of these different emotions.
Sad. Sad's a great one. Angry. Do you know how many great rock and roll songs have been written from people who were just, instead of screaming at their brother, or getting mad at the family dog, or whatever it is, and acting silly, they wrote it down. Concerned, anxious, overwhelmed, jealousy, depressed, amazed, happy. Isn't that nice? We finally had happy after all these. How many great songs have been written from people who were happy?
It just makes you realize, well, if they're aware of them, then they're feeling them, and if they're feeling them, they should be writing them.
Writing is taking these emotions, and rather than acting them out as people, we put them on paper, and in that process, we begin to feel better. I swear it works.
Well, I think it's important to talk about the history of folk music because that's the roots of the singer-songwriter. That's what my roots are. It comes ultimately from folk music, and it's an opportunity to just teach the students about folk music.
Most of these people can be traced right to Bob Dylan or right to Woody Guthrie because these people who are writing the songs are writing from here.
Well, the program gives me an opportunity to show students how they can take any experience, a positive experience, a negative experience, whatever it is, and write about it. I show them how to organize their thoughts.
I really did see this as a storm of sorts. Now, that Jane's in the middle of a storm that she's got to get through. What are some of the things when there are storms? Let's think of the storm. What do you think? What are some of the words that come to mind? Floods. Okay, that's a good one. Now you get to floods, and what do you want to do? If the water's down here, where do you want to go? Up there to where? Higher ground.
You know how to use the 5 senses when you're writing.
What are the sounds you hear in a storm?
I try to stress that writing doesn't have to be this heavy, serious thing that's always about expressing your emotions, that even just writing something funny or writing something light or whatever it is, if you're writing, you're getting better, you're improving.
Ultimately, we're writing for ourselves, folks. People do not need to read your diaries. People don't need to read, even if you just go to write something silly. As a matter of fact, speaking of silly, writing does not have to be serious. If you're writing something at all, even if it's just a sentence or 2 a day, it doesn't have to rhyme, it doesn't have to be serious, it doesn't have to be sad. Sometimes it can sound something like this.
One of my favorite parts of the presentation is when I ask the students to think about an experience they had, a positive experience, a really great experience that they had over the last 6 months to a year or so.
Anybody have anything really good happen to them in the last 6 months? Okay, I see 1, 2, 3. Anybody else? Oh, now that is a great one. Okay, so he got his own puppy. So we'll just put down, let's just think about this. You got your own puppy, so we'll put the word puppy down, okay? Now, here's what I want you to start thinking about. What day? When was it?
And I show them how to take a simple phrase like, I got a new puppy, to creating a colorful expression of how they felt about getting that new puppy. Something as simple as that.
So now, what we've done, we see snow, we hear things, we smell things. What do we taste in wintertime? We taste the peppermint, we taste the cocoa. So now, Zach, if you were going to take your puppy example, okay, you said, I got a new puppy. But by doing this, by starting to think about when you got your new puppy, you can actually, where was the puppy? New York. Got to put that in there. So rather than just say, I got a new puppy, now you've made a list of things. And if you want to sit down and write about this in a journal or a poem or a song or whatever it is that you want to do, you can now draw from this list and say, it was a cold, cold, snowy, wintry day. The sky was white, so was the snow. I could smell the cocoa and taste the peppermint as I took my new, what color was the puppy? My new brown puppy into my arms and sat down and started to play with it.
Ultimately, the program's about letting the students know that whatever they're feeling, whatever emotions they feel on a day-to-day basis are normal, and that writing about these emotions, whatever they may be, can be incredibly rewarding. And in the process, the more you write, the better you become at it, really like anything else.
You will find that the more you do this, all of a sudden it'll start to come easier and easier, and you'll look at your first work and then you'll look at maybe the 10th thing that you wrote and go, wow, because I was doing this like anything else, throwing or hockey or practice, 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 suddenly your work is going to go from here to here.
Well, I give them a little background of myself. I was not always a songwriter. I was not always a writer, and I wish that when I was their age, somebody had come into my school and talked about this, and talked about the emotions that we feel and coping with the emotions that we feel through writing and through creating art.
But the most important thing before I wrap up, the most important thing next to writing is for everybody here to be good to everybody else. That's the most important thing I want to leave you with, is if we're good to each other here, we're going to frustrate each other. We're going to get on each other's nerves. We're going to have our little sister's going to bother us sometimes. But the most important thing is to be the bigger person, rise above it. Instead of getting angry or frustrated, write about it, be the leader, and be the person who actually acts the correct way. And you're acting the correct way because all your anger or frustration or even happiness went into your song or whatever it is.
I think the program's so successful because it uses music to convey the message about writing and expressing yourself. Singers expressing themselves, songwriters expressing themselves. That's easier for young people to relate to, I think.
Write, 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 okay? Just write and create.
Trade winds blow below the hemisphere, and the deal's going down right now, my dear.